Hey everyone, welcome to Sidetrack Adventures. This is Steve. Right now, we are less than half an hour from the Las Vegas Strip, one of the most crowded and loudest places on Earth. But out here, it feels like a completely different world, because hidden in the desert behind me is one of the most important and mysterious archaeological sites in the Southwest. A canyon with rock art so extensive, it's been called the Sistine Chapel of Native American rock art. And today, we're gonna go find it.
We are starting out today right on the very edge of Henderson, Nevada. When I said that we are less than half an hour from the Las Vegas Strip, we are close enough that you can actually see it from here if we look back. We're starting out early to try and beat the heat. It's spring right now, but it's supposed to hit over 100 degrees this afternoon. Right now it feels nice. It's probably in the mid-60s, but it gets hot fast out here. The site we are heading to earned the nickname the Sistine Chapel of Native American rock art because of its size and importance. But archaeologists aren't exactly sure what its purpose was. From here, we're going to follow this wash a few miles up into the hills, into a canyon that holds thousands of years of history. And normally I try and share as much background information as I can about a place. But unfortunately, places like this don't exactly come with a complete record. But I will try to give as much information that is known as possible. In all, this trip should be just a little bit over 5 miles, as we're going to head up, kind of loop around in the canyon, and then head back to where we started. These volcanic rocks here that have this thin, dark layer that's known as desert varnish, these are the types of rocks that we'll be looking for later on, because it's these rocks that you would normally find petroglyphs on. Even though we've moved farther away, it looks like the view of Las Vegas is actually getting better from here. We're coming up on a fence or a gate. We're about to enter the Sloan Canyon National Conservation Area. Normally you could start this hike from the conservation area. There's a parking lot. But as we're filming this, there is construction going on, so the parking lot is closed. With the parking lot being closed, it adds about 1.5 miles to the hike round trip. So far the hike has been a slow, gradual uphill, but unfortunately I believe most of the hike is in this wash, which really isn't the most fun thing to hike on. If you've ever walked on the beach, it's a lot like that. Your foot kind of sinks down with every step. It's definitely easier to walk on solid ground, but I guess if you look at the bright side, it's a good workout for your calves. We're coming up on another fence. This one signifies that we're going to be entering a wilderness area. When land is designated as a wilderness area, it puts special restrictions on that land, such as you can't travel by motorized vehicle, no cars, no motorboats. New roads can't be built in wilderness areas, and you can't land aircraft. And that last one is why there won't be any drone footage in this video. At least it saves us carrying the extra weight. Here comes a sign letting us know we're still on the right path. Though I guess it would be pretty hard to get lost out here, as long as you stay in this wash. Since this whole hike is in a wash, you probably don't want to be out here in bad weather. Now it's time to start heading into the canyon. We still have a ways to go before we get to the petroglyphs, but I can't help but scan all of these rocks looking for anything. I also can't help but wonder what's down these side canyons. There is a lot of volcanic rock on this side of the canyon, but so far no petroglyphs. It's incredible when you think about how long people had been coming through here. Long before Las Vegas existed, long before there were roads, railroads, or even written history here. People were coming into this canyon and leaving something behind. Over thousands of years, different groups passed through this area, including the ancestors of the southern Paiute. But most of the rock art that we'll see is generally associated with what archaeologists call the Great Basin cultural tradition, which is a broad term for the hunter-gatherer societies that lived across this region for thousands of years. Some of the earliest petroglyphs in this canyon may date back several thousand years, possibly as far back as around 2000 BC, though exact dates are uncertain. Dating rock art isn't an exact science. There's no way to carbon date a carving in stone, so a lot of this is based on style and comparison. I've never been out here before, but with a nickname like the Sistine Chapel of Native American rock art, I'm expecting it to be pretty impressive. I have been to the Sistine Chapel at the Vatican, and I can tell you one big difference already between here and there. It is a lot less crowded here. When I went to the Sistine Chapel, it was so packed with people. You were just shoulder to shoulder in there. On this trail, we've only seen one other group of people so far. I think my wife hates walking in this wash more than I do. So we've made it to where the loop begins, and we have two choices here. We can go to the left, which supposedly has some dry waterfalls that you have to climb up if you go this way. Or if we go to the right, it gets fairly steep. I think we're going to go ahead and go to the left because I would rather climb up the dry waterfalls than come down them. I guess one positive about walking in this wash is we're probably not going to get surprised by a snake. We should be able to see any before we get to them. There's lots of brush that looks like it could be prime snake habitat, but the wash is big enough where it's easy enough to stay away from it. There are some pretty cool rock formations above us here too. There is some stuff scratched in the rocks above us here, but unfortunately it looks pretty modern. Here comes the first dry waterfall. Apparently there are 4 dry waterfalls that we have to go up, and this one doesn't look too bad. A lot of the times on these dry waterfalls, because of all the water coming over them over the years, the rocks get smooth and slippery, so it's usually just easier to go up them than it is to come down them. But this one doesn't look like it's going to be much of an issue. And let's head to the left. It looks like there's a trail over here. So here's our first dry waterfall. As we're heading further in, the canyon is becoming more and more impressive. It's starting to look like a proper canyon now. And here are the canyon walls above us now. And here's a look back the way we've come. It's incredible to think how close we are to Las Vegas right now, but this really feels like we are a world away. It looks like we're at the next small dry waterfall. So far, these things aren't that bad. You have to wonder how long people have been coming through this canyon. You figure the oldest petroglyphs were made thousands of years ago by the ancestral Great Basin peoples, but people had to be coming through here before that. The canyon makes a great natural pathway through the mountains. Here comes another dry waterfall. They're getting a little bigger now. So this canyon was in continuous use for thousands of years. I mean, originally the ancestral Great Basin peoples, pre-European contact, the southern Paiutes were coming through here. And I have to watch my footing here. Some of this rock is pretty smooth. In the 1700s and 1800s, Spanish and American explorers passed through this area, but this canyon remained relatively untouched. By the 1800s and early 1900s, local ranchers knew about this place, but it didn't become widely known until the late 1900s. It wasn't until the 1980s that extensive surveys were done here. And I think I'm going to have to use my hands to climb up here. And I'll show you how smooth this rock gets. You can see it right here. Okay, so I think that last one was the warm-up for what's ahead of us. This one looks pretty dicey here. Look at this boulder stuck here. Just think about how much water had to be flowing through here to bring that down here. But it looks like we're going to have to climb up over here. And I'm going to need both hands for this, so I'm going to put the camera away for a minute. But hopefully in just a minute, we'll be on top. Well, here's a look from above. It wasn't that steep, but it was pretty slippery, so you definitely want to make sure you have at least one hand holding on to something at all times. It's a big enough drop where you'll feel it. And here's that boulder. And here's a look back into the canyon. And right here on top of the waterfall, we have reached the petroglyphs. And yeah, there are a lot of them. Wow, look at the bighorn sheep petroglyphs above us. Taking a look around, one thing that is obvious right away is how not all of this art looks the same. You have these really clear, recognizable figures like bighorn sheep. Then right next to them, you see something completely different. Art that is much more abstract. It really shows how different cultures made these panels over thousands of years. Nearly every rock on this side of the canyon has petroglyphs on them. Apparently, there are over 1,700 individual designs out here. We'll have to use the zoom on the camera to get a good look at some of these. I'm going to stay in the wash because the oils on our hands could damage these rocks. Plus, climbing over them, you're really taking a chance at damaging something. And these have been around for thousands of years. Hopefully they could be around thousands more. You have to wonder what this represents. And that is one big lizard over there as well. Lots of bighorn sheep. I was hoping to see some living ones out here today, but so far no luck. This guy seems pretty unbothered by us. I believe this is a Great Basin collared lizard. And it's probably because some of the art on these rocks depict his ancestors. I think this one is his great 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 grandfather. Some of these, like this line with all the dots on it, you have to wonder if it's maybe a map of some sort. Because all of the art is concentrated here, and there was none before this point, some believe that this wasn't just a travel route, but that this was a ceremonial space. But you can see here, the art goes all the way up the side of the canyon. Once again, when you see some of these shapes, it's impossible not to think that they might have been maps. But then again, I'm looking at these with 21st century eyes, not the eyes of their creator. We could never truly know what they were thinking. Okay, so I have to guess that this one depicts somebody falling down that dry waterfall back there. Here's another lizard on this rock. People always ask in the comments what kind of animals we see when we're out walking around. And really, it's mainly lizards. I think we've seen one rattlesnake in the last 5 years. I keep thinking some of these petroglyphs look like maps. At the very least, some of the designs are likely trail markers, kind of the ancient version of a GPS. They told travelers where to find water or which path led over the mountains. The canyon walls do act like a natural art gallery. The amount of rock art here is pretty incredible, and the fact that it's all concentrated in this one area makes it seem even more impressive. And I could easily spend hours out here looking at all of the art, just wondering what story they were trying to tell when they created it. This canyon was likely still being used by the southern Paiute into the late 1800s. By that time, settlement in the Las Vegas Valley was pushing native peoples off their traditional lands. Something that I've noticed that I find pretty interesting is all of the petroglyphs are concentrated on the right side of the canyon. None are on this side, on the left side. They all seem to be just on this one side of the canyon. That makes me wonder if there was something special or sacred about this mountain. It's really starting to warm up now, so we're going to start heading up to loop back around. If you think about it, this place is called the Sistine Chapel of Native American Rock Art, but it's far older than the Sistine Chapel. Maybe the Sistine Chapel should be called the Sloan Canyon of churches. And unlike Michelangelo, this wasn't about one artist being remembered. This was something people came back to over generations. Well, we've made it up to the high point, and someone went and put a mountain in the way, blocking what would be a perfect view of Las Vegas from up here. We have a great view of Henderson, I guess. But from here, it's time to head back down and hopefully get back to our car before it gets too hot out here.
So that's our look at Sloan Canyon and the Sistine Chapel of Native American Rock Art. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next week.